Hey ratbags, it's Jade. Today going over the latest gameplay shown off from ATOMFALL. If you heard about this game, it got revealed a few months ago during the summer showcase events. It is a Rebellion made game and it's going to be coming to Xbox Game Pass in the March of 2025, I do believe. But fear not, PlayStation players, it's also appearing on PlayStation 5, PS4 and older gen Xbox One consoles and of course PC too. What is it? It is a survival action shooter. I had debated whether or not this was really good enough to be a survival game. You know, it doesn't seem to have any food or water listed, the usual requirements that some people have, but I can take games that have maybe horde defense or just a great scavenge and a good crafting system as long as you're fighting off against certain creatures. And that usually means something like zombies. That's what most people associate with a post-apocalyptic shooter survival game nowadays. While there might not be zombies, there definitely looks to be some sort of mutants, as well as a whole host of other enemies, including human NPC factions, robots, and more. So we'll have to wait and see what other kind of details we have about what really makes this a survival shooter, other than just scavenging for bullets and more resources. But that's what kind of piqued my interest, or maybe got some questions still to answer. ATOMFALL is based on a real life event that happened in the 50s in the UK, although it maybe didn't turn out as drastic as the game is portraying it. This is an alternate history timeline. There was an incident at a nuclear plant and it resulted in a village or two being evacuated for a while. Now of course in this setting the area has been overrun by these different factions vying for control or to keep people in or out. It's been 5 years since whatever incident happened and this whole area is still under lockdown. Does seem to be stuff that's been happening over a long period of time here, including some maybe crazy science experiments. This narrated showcase is up on the Rebellion YouTube channel, which I'll leave a link to if you want to hear the narration yourself. Otherwise I'm giving my opinion mixed in with the beats of what to expect from it. And obviously a few more details that I've found from watching. And bearing in mind it's going to be released on all platforms, older gen as well as obviously current, I do think the game looks pretty nice. It's got a certain art style, definitely that feeling of a Rebellion game, makers of games like Sniper Elite. It does seem to have a lot more focus on exploration and getting into dungeons and maybe laboratories to discover new secrets, take on new enemies and get new technology. So Windscale, the place where we're at, has been under this lockdown and all sorts of strange things have been happening. The army taking control are called Protocol and they are tasked with keeping order, but they seem to have gone a little bit too much into maybe dictatorship as the powers got to their heads. Part of their contingent to keep the village and the area safe are these mechanized robots. It does look like you'll be moderately able to walk around finding clues and leads. The devs have promised that it won't be a case of just marker here, marker there, go and explore. Instead, you will have to pick up distinct little clues that may reveal certain aspects and places to go instead. So we're definitely not looking like a complete enemy here, even though I've got a very vicious melee weapon in my hand. It looks like we will be engaging with Protocol quite a bit as we explore, maybe in the relative safety of this village, as long as we don't piss off these robots. There's a variety of these guys equipped with either machine guns or flamethrowers, definitely some you don't want to mess with. Next up are the remnants of a group called BARD, basically I think the science division that was sent in, or maybe have been conducting lots of experiments and possibly caused the nuclear event. Now I say nuclear event, it's not like it went off or exploded and everywhere was flooded with radiation, but there does seem to be something going on here. BARD are the original makers, it does look like, of these robots as well, so we'll come across various different ones as we explore some of these dungeons and laboratories. So as well as obviously advancing the story, hopefully getting better and more unique gear. So finding leads to maybe direct us to the next part of the story or unlock new areas. This is shown by a still if we zoom in that the leads have been resolved. And a photo mode that I'm hoping will have an actual gameplay loop and help us in getting through the game. Recording evidence of supernatural goings on, as well as obviously just trying to fight for your life. The mutants do look a little bit ropey in terms of how they move, and I don't think it's by design. I think sometimes the gameplay here shows that mutants do need a bit more work. But the environments, the setting, as well as obviously all the human factions are pretty interesting. Alongside them too, you've definitely got more distinct human factions, cultists, and these all have their own sub-branches. Some either worshipping maybe the more supernatural things going on, or simply taking advantage of the chaos and maybe trying to eke a living under the heel of Protocol. There's wicker men and all sorts of really good references to, again, horror and sci-fi from very much British TV shows and literature. They won't have access to as high powered gear as some from Protocol, or maybe so deadly as the forces from Bard, but they still nevertheless will present a danger. The good old British cricket bat is a weapon you can absolutely use. If anyone's ever played We Happy Few, a very flawed survival action RPG game, then you might get that sense of deja vu. Of course, all influenced, I'm sure, by something like Clockwork Orange. I'm slowing it down a little bit here just to take a good look at some of the combat, and it looks pretty decent. You know, nothing earth-shatteringly brand new, but the mixed element of being able to barge, kick at enemies, use a good chunk of melee weapons, firearms, and stealth. It's not all just about bludgeoning people over the head with the bat. It's why I thought it might be something more along the lines of Far Cry, or just another typical open world shooter. But as said, the developers have been pretty keen now in their marketing and other tweets and stuff I've seen from some of the individual members to stress this is a survival and open world game. It does look like bullets and ammo are going to be pretty scarce, and from this still we definitely see that there's water to get from certain enemies, but I'm guessing that's going to be more of a crafting resource. There are glimpses of maybe the health system and stamina system, but nothing that shows or says you absolutely need food and water. The guns and weaponry does look pretty basic, especially the firearms, stuff you've seen before. I do kind of hope they lean into maybe a little bit more interesting stuff. You know, modified guns and maybe some crazy arsenal. There are going to be some skills that we can unlock to improve stuff, I'm guessing, like our stamina and maybe stealth abilities or just simply damage. With a very limited inventory space, but plenty of slots for different weapons, as well as more unique tools like a metal detector. Obviously, if you haven't worked out by now, the game is going to be a single player experience. Doesn't look like there's any plans for multiplayer, but I'm kind of down for this. I love the idea of a game set in Britain in the 50s or 60s sci-fi setting. This is the kind of stuff that would be on repeat a lot as a kid on a Saturday or Sunday morning for me. And that's what Rebellion have cited as some of their inspirations for this game. Has somewhat been dubbed Fallout UK, but I think this game has its own merits for sure, and I'm definitely looking forward to trying it out properly and seeing if the clues and the way that we find maybe locations to go explore really actually break the mold instead of just the usual open world RPG stuff. I've never been a big fan of the Sniper Elite series, or Elite Sniper even, but I do remember Strange Brigade. That was an interesting third-person shooter game that kind of come and went without much fanfare. But I do know the shooting mechanics of games like Sniper Elite have always been pretty sound, so yeah, the gameplay, gunplay here should be pretty on point. And let's just hope the survival elements are compelling enough to really warrant that label survival. And are these laboratories and dungeons and places going to be thrilling and challenging, as well as rewarding to go and actually explore and uncover? So it's official, any news that drops about this game, I'm going to be relaying it to you guys. So to hear more about ATOMFALL in future, make sure you subscribe, you've got that notification bell dinged, and I'll see you ratbags for more survival news and gameplay soon. Bye bye.